Deleted Station, October 22, 1977. Good evening. Now, as I told you, Framework 2 is the creative medium that is responsible for physical life. It is not true, however, that passive and negative feelings, the beliefs take there with equal vitality. It is true that your beliefs form your reality. However, you do have a certain leeway, in that those desires that lead to fulfillment and positive creativity are more in keeping with the natural leanings of Framework 2 itself. Relatively speaking, then, these take more quickly and accelerate in a more direct fashion. Limiting beliefs have to meet certain resistances, for they are not in keeping with the overall creative framework. It is easier for a body to be healthy than ill, and in the terms of this discussion, for example, old age does not basically bring with it any particular diseases or susceptibility. Practically speaking, now, negative beliefs often finally catch up with an individual, leading to various diseases. I want to emphasize, however, that Framework 2 is not a neutral medium. Negative beliefs have to be inserted there with great repetitiveness before you meet their physical results. To that extent also, energy is not neutral, as is often said, to be used for good or evil. For example, energy is a positive force, ever inclining toward creativity and fulfillment. You are learning. The simple change of this route shows you how a change of attitude can break a negative pattern overnight. The pattern was actually broken by the simple remark that you made earlier that led Ruber to think of the stool for dishes. Your suggestion about the bathroom, Ram noted, sitting down. Said is another instance of creative action which takes. Ruber's previous position about the dishes was black or white. He would make no concessions. The more you enjoy life and your daily moments, the less difficulty you will be in any area, for your thoughts become naturally pleasant and naturally attract good to you from Framework 2. The stool and the sink reminded Ruber that he could indeed use the stool in other areas of the kitchen, so he thought of cooking, and to that extent, his thoughts became more naturally attuned. He expected more motion of himself, even though working specifically was not involved. That kind of stimulus, encouraged and not forgotten or let go, will set up a new set of mental habits, and literally with no effort, as suddenly he finds enjoyment doing the dishes. The mental patterns are all important, yet you see you have initiated some new ones creatively, using both frameworks 1 and 2. You are correct. The more activities of a natural kind that Ruber performs, whether or not he can do them on his feet, the better off he is and you are. This signals what you want into Framework 2. And those activities will indeed be done better. It was, you see, I am explaining simply, too great a leap, if you will forgive me, to expect him to walk easily up his dentist steps at this point. His faith could not take that leap. What you have begun, however, if you keep to this frame of mind, will indeed accelerate his physical improvement, for his mind will already have made necessary changes. He can help out with the cooking, or make special dishes, or whatever. Ram noted, as she did today. She said this makes him feel more a part of normal living, and sets his own creative mechanisms more vigorously into new directions. The suggestions you gave him are excellent. There are no impediments in Framework 2, then, to desires that are natural, creative, and that promote life. It is far easier, basically speaking, now, for the body to heal itself than for it not to. Only beliefs otherwise, constantly and steadily applied, can impede that progress. I believe that you are finally beginning, both of you, the last few days, how to get a hold of your natural creativity in connection with Ruber's situation, and to apply it to that end. If you continue, then you attract from framework 2 everything that you possibly need, and other areas of your life will also improve. For to whatever extent they are somewhat shadowed by your attitudes resulting from Ruber's condition, the mood, however, and the results that you achieved today, if sustained, draws to you from all of your experience and from the vast potential of framework 2, those body events, healing situations, dreams, impulses, or whatever is needed to right Ruber's condition. Faith itself then becomes an active ingredient in your lives in that regard. That is why your suggestions of today are so vital, stating that you do have faith that Ruber's condition is now in the process of being healed in framework 2, and that the results will show in framework 1. It is important that you realize that the healing is now taking place in framework 2, whether or not you see immediate results in any given day or not. That is where faith comes in. 3 years ago, there was no Sesame or Jane's books. There was no evidence of land, no stacks of paper, no contract. Jane's had been thought of, but Ruber certainly had no idea he would or could possibly write a book on painting. Now the books exist, for no impediments were put in the way here. Yet again, there was no physical evidence. Ruber had written books before, but Ruber has worked before also. Give us a moment. I hope over a period of time to explain framework 2 even more clearly, and still for now, your touch with creativity is your best method, for it comes naturally to each of you. And used as you have just begun using it, it can show you through action some issues most difficult to describe. It sets into motion all kinds of not only possible, but arousing sentiments that of themselves have a restoring quality. If I try too specifically to help Ruber become consciously aware of methods he uses naturally in his creative work, he is apt to get too detailed in his physical efforts, where the creative activity you have begun of itself can carry itself along in physical areas if you allow it to. The body wants to move, to act, to perform, and Ruber needs some physical sense of satisfaction and accomplishment. This also allows his mind to refresh itself. When you are enjoying yourself, you are not worrying. A day like today is now beneficial then from many standpoints. Once you allow your faith to take some root, then you yield far more than you saw in framework 2, and in results in framework 1. Positively, you see that kind of acceleration in Ruber's work, and if you give yourselves a chance, you will see it also as far as Ruber's physical condition is concerned. The body tries, it continues its own processes toward healing. You have only to encourage this, and to have faith in the body's abilities and intents. Unless you have questions, that will be it for this evening. Ross said, well, I have got questions, but I don't know whether he wants to continue or not. Let's take a break. They said, we will indeed. There is, of course, an important give and take between the two frameworks and between mental and physical action. Mental and physical actions each stimulate each other. You think of what you do. You visualize yourself at it naturally and effortlessly. Nobody has to tell you to do it. As Robert tries more physical activity, even in the house, the creative abilities will automatically trigger certain processes, so that he finds himself mentally concerned, for example, with what he will cook, or what cupboard he will wash, or whatever. Those thoughts can trigger unconscious muscular activity that will indeed make physical performance easier. The enjoyment, again, automatically means that for that time he is not worrying, and besides that, the physical activity gives his muscles more to do, and gives him a sense of physical accomplishment. These issues and processes then act as excellent feedback, and reverse the negative habits that before operated. The peace of mind will enrich his creative abilities, and that will automatically minimize whatever fears he has that physical activity will cut down on his creativity. Impulses toward action will be naturally rearoused, and desires toward spontaneous action will find more and more release. Driving now is good, for it represents one of Rupert's few connections with the natural outside world, and as he does improve, his natural impulses, will begin to show themselves. He will think of wanting to go into a restaurant you pass, or whatever, whether or not he can say at that moment. He should look over his clothes, for example, lay out his special ones, or whatever, so that he can begin to feel he is capable of choosing his own attire for the day. A small point, but important, that he started out the day with that kind of choice. Your own creativity being applied in this new fashion will also show its result in your painting and writing, for it adds a new cast, not only to your understanding of creativity, but to its application. Some of the material in this section is extremely valuable in the handling of health problems, because of its clues in rousing the creative abilities from one area of life to another. The great thrust of creative abilities, utilized in the health area, will automatically bring Ruber flexibility. Before, his condition was the one area in which he was not creative, as far as his flexibility was concerned. He has a strong constitution, for he left that alone, and the obsession, but I will have more to say concerning creativity and frameworks 1 and 2. My heartiest regards, and a creative good evening. That's it. Thank you very much. Said good night.